Yes, I'm familiar with Apostle Joshua Selman and his sermons. He is a Nigerian preacher, founder of Koinonia's Eternity Network International, ENI, and known for deeply spiritual, Bible-based teachings on topics like, this week is not an ordinary week. By the Spirit of God, it is a prophetic moment, a divine season where the unfinished works of God in your life will be completed with accuracy and speed. Every divine intention that has lingered, every promise that has tarried, every prophecy waiting for manifestation. This is the week of completion, the week of divine finishing, the week where God steps in as the author and the finisher. This week, God will complete your testimony. He will complete your healing. He will complete your restoration. He will complete your lifting. He will complete your transformation. Watch closely. You will not need to force anything. His power will move things into place. His mercy will settle matters. His wisdom will guide your steps. His favor will surround you like a shield. His presence will defend your destiny. When we say that God completes whatever He begins, we are not making a motivational statement. We are declaring a spiritual law, a truth rooted in the very nature of God. Everything He starts carries His integrity. And because His integrity cannot fail, His works cannot remain unfinished. When God begins a process in a person's life, He binds Himself to the responsibility of bringing that process to maturity. Many times, life can make you feel as though the journey is too long, the delays too heavy, and the opposition too intense. You may look at your life and see areas where you started with passion, but became weary along the way. You may even feel like certain promises God made to you are hanging in the air. Beautiful but incomplete, spoken but not manifested, begun but not finished. But hear this, God does not abandon His investment. If His voice initiated it, His hand will complete it. The challenge is that the seasons between beginning and completion can be uncomfortable. God often starts with a whisper, a promise, a seed. But between the seed and the harvest lies process, and it is during the process that discouragement tries to speak the loudest. Many people think delay means denial, but delay is often the space where God shapes your capacity to handle what He promised. He is too wise to start something in your life without knowing the exact pathway to its completion. Even when you don't understand how He will finish, He already has the blueprint. He is not reacting to your life. He is ruling over it. The things that confuse you do not confuse Him. The detours that surprise you do not surprise Him. The obstacles that appear suddenly are already calculated in His plan to finish what He started. You must realize that divine beginnings are not casual. When God begins a work in you, whether it is the journey of spiritual growth, the rise into destiny, the healing of your heart, or the restoration of your purpose, He begins with the end in mind. You may feel weak, but He does not begin based on your strength. You may feel unprepared, but He does not begin based on your readiness. He begins based on His sovereignty. He sees your future while you are still standing at the starting point. And because He sees the end before the beginning, He is committed to navigating you until your life becomes what He intended. Sometimes the confusion we experience comes from the assumption that God will finish things the way we imagined. But His finishing does not always look like our expectations. His methods may differ, but His intention is constant. Completion. There are seasons when He finishes quietly, without noise or attention. And there are seasons when He finishes dramatically, in a way that brings honor to His name. You must trust Him enough to let Him finish His work His way. Just because you do not see motion does not mean He is not working. God does not announce every stroke of his hand. Some of the most powerful finishing touches of God happen in silence, in the unseen place, in the hidden rooms of destiny. And yet there are moments like this week when God steps into your timeline with urgency. Times when he rushes to complete what has lingered. Times when heaven emphasizes finishing, when grace rises, when divine help intensifies. Times when old prayers receive new answers. This is such a moment. God is stepping in as the one who perfects, the one who completes, the one who finalizes. He is not intimidated by how long the journey has taken, nor is he discouraged by how many times you tried and failed. His power to finish is greater than your weakness, greater than your mistakes, greater than your delays. Rest in this truth. If God started it, he will finish it. Your role is to believe, align, and stay yielded. His role is to bring it to completion with precision, excellence, and divine faithfulness. When we say that this week carries a prophetic grace, we are declaring that this is not just another 7 cycle on the calendar. It is a spiritually marked moment, a divinely chosen window where heaven is intentionally postured toward your life. There are weeks in the spirit that are ordinary, and there are weeks that are appointed. When a week becomes prophetic, it means God has breathed upon it, set it apart, and wrapped it with favor, intervention, and divine possibilities. It means the atmosphere around your destiny carries a unique sensitivity. And what normally takes months can happen in moments. You are stepping into a week where the hand of God does not follow your timeline, it overrides it. Prophetic grace is when the natural and the spiritual overlap. It is when God deposits unusual speed into ordinary processes. It is when prayers that once sounded distant suddenly gain momentum, and doors that once seemed sealed begin to respond to the pressure of heaven. A prophetic week carries the weight of divine intention. It is not just time passing, it is time fulfilling. It is a week where God says, I have chosen this moment to move in ways that command attention, shift seasons, and establish long-awaited outcomes. When divine grace sits upon a week, even the simplest obedience can produce extraordinary results. What you attempt will prosper. What you pray will reach heaven with force. What you touch will carry an imprint of the supernatural. This kind of week is not governed by human calculations. It is governed by spiritual timing. And spiritual timing is more powerful than opportunity, effort, or intelligence. When God marks a week, even your weaknesses become instruments of his will. Even the areas you fear become platforms for his manifestation. A prophetic week is when God opens a curtain in the realm of the spirit and says, no is the time. And when heaven says, no, no power of darkness can say later. No delay can argue. No obstacle can resist. No limitation can survive. Divine grace for completion descends with authority, carrying the assignment of settling, perfecting, and concluding matters that have lingered for too long. This week, grace will speak louder than struggle. Favor will speak louder than your past. Mercy will speak louder than your mistakes. The prophetic dimension of this week means you will experience answers that outrun your expectations. You may not be able to explain everything, but you will testify of it. You will look back and say, something shifted, something broke open, something completed. That is the language of a prophetic week. It is the kind of week where God himself supervises the affairs of your life, where invisible help becomes tangible, where angels are deployed with assignments that align your environment with heaven's decree. A prophetic week also means that your sensitivity matters. This is not a time to live casually or speak carelessly. It is a time to align your words with what heaven is saying. Speak completion. Declare advancement. Announce the end of cycles, because prophetic grace responds to prophetic declarations. What you speak in weeks like this carries unusual weight. Heaven is listening closely because God is working actively. In a prophetic week, the movements of God are fast but intentional. He perfects what concerns you. He orchestrates alignments. He restores broken foundations. He revives dormant dreams. He accelerates delayed promises. And he does it with a precision that leaves no doubt that his hand was involved. This week carries a grace that insists on finishing. Things that remained incomplete for years can find closure. Battles that resisted you can suddenly bow. Breakthroughs that seemed far away can manifest with ease. This is not an ordinary week for you. It is a prophetic appointment. Step into it with faith, expect with boldness, and walk with the awareness that heaven is leaning toward you. The grace for completion is active, alive, and working on your behalf. When we say God will revisit and settle long-awaited matters, we are acknowledging a truth many people overlook. God is not only the one who begins and ends things, he is also the one who returns to unresolved seasons and brings justice, clarity, and conclusion. There are issues in life that linger, prayers that seem unanswered, and battles that do not bow easily. Sometimes it feels like certain situations have been placed on a shelf in the spirit, untouched and unresolved. But when God revisits a matter, he does not come casually. He comes with intention, power, and a determination to settle it once and for all. This week is such a moment. Heaven has decided to return to things you thought were forgotten. Long-awaited matters are not just problems or delays. They are often deeply personal areas where your heart cried, your faith stretched, and your patience was tested. They represent promises you wrote down, prophecies you believed, tears you shed in private, and expectations you carried silently. Many times, these matters remain unresolved not because God is unwilling, but because divine timing had not aligned with his purpose. But when that timing arrives, everything changes. God begins to move with a speed and precision that proves the wait was not waste. It was preparation for a complete settlement. To revisit means God turns his attention back toward areas that once seemed stagnant. It means the heavens reopen files on your behalf. Documents that seemed closed, stories that felt unfinished, and prayers that grew dusty in your memory are being brought back into divine focus. Where people may have forgotten, God has not. Where time may have passed, his intention has not shifted. God revisits what concerns you because his covenant is to perfect it. He is not intimidated by how long it has lingered. He is not discouraged by how complicated it has become. He is the God who returns with answers. And when he returns, he settles. Settlement means finality. It means closure. It means the end of wandering around the same issue. Many have walked in cycles. Cycles of almost there. Cycles of rising and falling. Cycles of breakthroughs that never fully manifest. But divine settlement destroys cycles. When God settles a matter, he does it thoroughly. The spiritual root is addressed. The emotional weight is lifted. The physical manifestation is delivered. Nothing is partial when God decides it is time for settlement. This week, God is revisiting financial matters that have been delayed. Approvals, opportunities, resources that were tied up by unseen resistance. He is revisiting family issues that seemed impossible to resolve. He is revisiting spiritual battles that drained your strength. He is revisiting dreams you buried because life convinced you they would never come alive again. He is revisiting relationships, paths, and assignments that were paused by circumstance. And when he revisits, he comes not as a silent observer, but as a righteous judge and a powerful defender. There are prayers you prayed that heaven never ignored. They were only waiting for this moment of divine alignment. There are prophecies spoken over you that never expired. They were only maturing until the season of settlement arrived. This is the week where God bends into your story and ties together loose ends. He brings answers that wipe away years of confusion. He brings restoration that overshadows years of delay. He brings clarity that silences years of questioning. His settlement is both spiritual and visible. You will not only feel the shift internally, you will see the results externally. So prepare your heart. This week, God is not doing random things. He is settling strategic matters. He is closing old chapters with honor and opening new ones with grace. He is returning to the forgotten corners of your destiny and lighting them with His glory. What lingered too long will be resolved. What resisted too hard will surrender. What confused you deeply will make sense. God is revisiting, and He is settling everything concerning you. When we speak of the grace for completion being released, we are referring to a dimension of divine enablement that goes beyond human effort, intelligence, or perseverance. Completion is not merely the result of working hard. Many people labor sincerely yet remain stuck in cycles of unfinished tasks, abandoned visions, and interrupted progress. Completion is a spiritual reality before it becomes a physical achievement. It requires a grace and empowerment from God that brings things to their appointed end. This week, that grace is descending upon your life in a tangible and irresistible way. The grace for completion is different from the grace for beginning. Many people receive inspiration from God to start new projects, ministries, businesses, relationships, or personal transformations. Beginnings can come with excitement and passion. But along the journey, distractions come, resistance rises, discouragement settles, and battles emerge that were not visible at the start. When the journey becomes heavy, people begin to slow down, withdraw, or lose momentum. But completion demands a different kind of strength, one that is sustained by God, not human enthusiasm. The grace for completion is what takes you from, I have started, to it is finished. This divine grace does not only give strength, it gives clarity. Many unfinished seasons linger because of confusion, uncertainty about the next step, the right decision, or the correct direction. When the grace for completion arrives, confusion breaks. Suddenly, decisions become clearer, directions become obvious, and steps that once felt difficult become simple. God releases insight that leads to correct choices, and these choices accelerate you toward the conclusion of what He began in your life. The grace for completion also confronts spiritual resistance. There are powers that fight endings more than beginnings. The enemy is not always intimidated by the fact that you started something. He fears the moment you finish it, because your completion becomes a testament to God's faithfulness. That is why many people get close to breakthroughs but never fully enter. They rise but fall back. They improve but cannot maintain it. They almost succeed, almost testify, almost get restored. But almost is a sign of contention in the spirit. The grace for completion breaks that contention. This grace carries the authority to silence every spiritual resistance that fights your finishing. Another dimension of this grace is supernatural assistance. When God is ready to complete something in your life, He sends help. Sometimes through people, sometimes through opportunities, sometimes through unexpected provisions. This help does not come randomly. It is orchestrated by heaven. You may find someone offering support you did not request, or a door opening that you did not knock on, or a resource appearing at the perfect moment. This is not coincidence. It is the grace for completion at work. This grace also brings acceleration. What you could not complete in years, God can empower you to finish in days. Divine acceleration is not rushed progress. It is divinely supported progress. It is when God multiplies your efforts and compresses timelines. Under this grace, slow and stagnant processes suddenly gain speed. Delayed results manifest quickly. Forgotten promises resurface with urgency. Tasks you once struggled to finish will now feel effortless because God Himself is pushing them into completion. Finally, the grace for completion produces rest. Not the rest of inactivity, but the rest of fulfillment. It is the satisfaction of seeing what God started come to maturity. It is the peace of knowing that the cycle is complete. The assignment is finished, the promise is fulfilled, and the battle is won. This rest is a sign that heaven has concluded a matter concerning your destiny. This week, that grace is upon you. You will not only start, you will finish. You will not only dream, you will manifest. You will not only believe, you will see. The grace for completion is working, and everything God began in your life will reach its appointed end. When we declare that the stronghold of delay and stagnation is broken, we are acknowledging that there are spiritual forces, psychological patterns, and environmental constraints that fight a person's advancement and attempt to keep destiny in a repetitive loop. Delay is not always the absence of progress. It is often the frustration of progress. It is when the path ahead of you seems open, yet invisible forces slow you down. Stagnation is when nothing moves. Opportunities freeze. Inspiration dries up, progress halts, and you feel trapped in a season that refuses to shift. Many people experience these conditions without understanding that behind prolonged delay is often a spiritual resistance determined to keep them from stepping into the fullness of God's intention. But this week, by divine intervention, those barriers are being shattered. Delay specializes in weakening hope. It stretches time in such a way that even the strongest promises begin to look doubtful. When something takes too long, the human heart can become weary. Discouragement whispers. Doubt increases. Dreams lose their fire. People begin to settle for less than what God declared. This is why delay is dangerous. It does not merely postpone manifestations. It attempts to reshape identity. It seeks to convince you that what God promised is unrealistic, that your expectations are too high, or that you were wrong to believe. But God never designed His children to live imprisoned by delay. Delay may appear strong, but it is not stronger than the voice of God when heaven speaks. No, delay loses its authority. Stagnation is even more subtle. It is when your environment, your emotions, or your circumstances freeze in place. You wake up, you try, you push, you plan, but nothing shifts. The same doors remain closed. The same results repeat. The same frustrations cycle. It feels like invisible chains are holding everything in place. Stagnation is the attempt of darkness to neutralize destiny. Even if a person has potential, stagnation tries to bury it under the weight of sameness. But God does not call His people to a life without motion. He calls them to growth, progress, increase, and advancement. Every place where your life has been held hostage by stagnation, God is breaking you free. The breaking of delay and stagnation requires a presence stronger than the forces that enforce them. It is not wishful thinking. It is a spiritual intervention. When God steps into a season, He does not negotiate with delay. He crushes it. He does not negotiate with stagnation. He commands movement. Throughout Scripture, when God visited people, one consistent pattern emerged. Things that had been stuck for years began to move. Sarah conceived. Joseph was remembered. Israel left Egypt. Hannah's womb opened. Lazarus rose. God's presence carries motion. Where He appears, stagnation dies. This week, the atmospheres around your destiny are shifting. Barricades you could not see, but consistently felt are being torn down. Invisible opposition is losing its grip. What held you back for months or even years is breaking by the force of divine interruption. The patterns of delay, projects that never finish, opportunities that always slip away, cycles of almost, but not quite are being dismantled. The cycle of stagnation, repeated struggles, unmoving environments, silent seasons is being overturned. The breaking of delay also brings a restoration of time. God does not simply free you, He compensates you. When delay is broken, time that was lost becomes time redeemed. You find yourself accomplishing in one season what should have taken many years. You experience an ease that does not match your human strength. This is God restoring what delay tried to steal. The breaking of stagnation brings renewed momentum. Ideas flow again. Strength rises again. Doors unlock. Relationships align. Help appears. Movement returns. Not because you forced it, but because God released it. This week, your destiny will no longer be slowed or frozen. The chains of delay are broken. The weight of stagnation is lifted. You are stepping into a season where progress will be natural, advancement will be continuous, and results will be visible. What refused to move before will begin to move now, because God has spoken concerning your life. When we say that God will perfect every area of your life, we are speaking of a dimension of divine involvement where nothing concerning you is left unfinished, unattended, or unhealed. God is not a partial worker. He is a God of wholeness. He does not lift one area of your life while ignoring the others. When He decides to perfect you, He does it in a way that leaves no corner untouched, no weakness unaddressed, no wound unhealed, and no destiny pathway incomplete. Perfection in this context does not mean flawlessness. It means divine completeness. It means God bringing every section of your life into alignment with His original intention. There are aspects of a person's life that often receive attention while others suffer in silence. Someone may be spiritually strong but emotionally wounded. Another may be financially stable but relationally broken. Another may walk in purpose but struggle internally with fear, shame, or insecurity. Yet, God's desire is not to bless you in fragments, but to perfect you holistically. He knows that destiny requires a balanced foundation. A powerful calling on a weak emotional structure becomes a burden. A thriving spiritual life on a broken mindset leads to limitation. A financially blessed person with internal chaos will still live in dissatisfaction. This is why God perfects every area, because destiny cannot flourish on imbalance. The perfection of God touches spiritual life first. Your walk with Him becomes clearer, deeper, and more stable. The areas where you struggled with inconsistency begin to gain strength. Confusion about His voice fades. Prayer becomes natural, not forced. Hunger becomes consistent, not seasonal. The weight that once pulled your spiritual life down loses power. God perfects your spiritual foundations because they are the pillars that hold every other dimension of your destiny. God's perfection extends to emotional healing. Many people carry unseen wounds, betrayals still bleeding, childhood trauma still echoing, disappointments still shaping behavior. These wounds create cracks in confidence, distort perception, and limit expression. But when God begins to perfect you, He quietly enters those hidden places and brings healing. Suddenly, the pain that once controlled your decisions loses its influence. The memories that once weakened your heart lose their sting. The fears that once shaped your personality begin to dissolve. Emotional restoration is part of God's perfection because a wounded heart cannot carry the full weight of a divine calling. Then there is the realm of relationships. Destiny is too heavy to be walked alone. God uses people as ladders, mirrors, helpers, and builders. Yet many lives are filled with relational disorder, wrong alliances, broken unions, friendships that drain instead of uplifting, family tensions that steal peace. When God perfects a life, He orchestrates relationships with precision. He removes the wrong people gently or forcefully, depending on what the season demands. He strengthens the right relationships. He sends new helpers, destiny partners, and divine connections. Perfection in this area means alignment. People who carry the grace, wisdom, and character to walk with you into your future. God's perfection also touches the area of purpose and destiny. Many people feel called but not clear, gifted but not directed, anointed but not established. But when God perfects this area, He brings clarity that guides your decisions. He reveals steps you could not see before. He amplifies your strengths and deals with weaknesses that could sabotage your assignment. He positions you where your purpose can thrive. Destiny perfection means coming into alignment with the reason you were created. And then there is the realm of provision. God perfects your finances by bringing order, wisdom, discipline, and favor. He opens doors you could not open, provides opportunities you did not expect, and gives strategies you did not think of. Financial perfection does not mean sudden wealth. It means stability, sufficiency, and the grace to steward increase. This week, God is commanding perfection over every area of your life: spiritual, emotional, relational, financial, and purposeful. Nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing unfinished. Every area that has been weak will gain strength. Every area that has been stagnant will rise. Every area that has been chaotic will find order. God is perfecting all that concerns you, and your life will reflect the completeness of His goodness. When we declare that you will walk in finalized testimonies, we are speaking of a spiritual shift where the results of God's intervention become visible, undeniable, and complete. A testimony is more than a story. It is evidence, proof that God has stepped into your life, settled matters, overturned battles, and released outcomes that no human effort could produce. But a finalized testimony is different. It is not partial victory. It is not an incomplete breakthrough. It is not a miracle that begins but does not sustain. A finalized testimony is a perfected manifestation, something God completes in such a way that nothing else needs to be added, explained, or adjusted. It is the kind that silences doubt, ends speculation, and brings glory to God. Many people live with half-answered prayers. They experience glimmers of hope, but not full manifestation. They taste progress, but never the finished result. They see movement, but not completion. These partial testimonies can encourage, but they can also frustrate when they do not reach full maturity. But this week, the grace for completion is producing finalized testimonies that do not require continuation, correction, or clarification. What God begins, He is bringing to an end that commands attention. A finalized testimony carries permanence. It means the chapter is truly closed. The battle is truly over. The sickness is truly healed. The prayer is truly answered. The door is truly opened. The season is truly shifted. It means the enemy no longer has loopholes to reintroduce past struggles. A finalized testimony is sealed by heaven. It is protected by God's decree. It is backed by spiritual authority. Nothing and no one can reverse what God has finished. This kind of testimony also carries a prophetic ripple. When God finalizes something in your life, it does not end with you. It echoes into your family, your environment, your future, and even your faith. It changes how you pray, how you believe, how you walk, and how you interpret God's dealings with you. A finalized testimony strengthens your confidence in God because it is an experience that cannot be argued with. It is an outcome that cannot be denied. It becomes a reference point in your spiritual journey. If God did this completely, He will do the next. There are testimonies you have been close to for years. Answers that almost came, breakthroughs that nearly happened, opportunities that slipped away at the final stage. These almost testimonies can be some of the most painful experiences because they show how close you were, yet how far you felt. But this week, by the authority of God's word, every almost testimony is becoming a finalized testimony. What once started and stopped will now start and finish. What once broke open and then closed again will remain open. This is a week of divine sealing, a week where God is stamping settled matters with His approval. A finalized testimony also attracts honor. When God finishes something in your life, He does it in a way that draws attention to His faithfulness. People who doubted will witness. People who underestimated you will rethink. People who dismissed you will be silent. But most importantly, you will know deep in your spirit that this outcome was not your doing. It was the hand of God completing what He started. This recognition brings humility, gratitude, and worship. You will not boast in yourself. You will boast in the God who perfects. This week, expect completeness. Expect closure. Expect endings that bring peace. Expect victories that remain. Expect manifestations that cannot be undone. You are stepping into a realm of established results where your testimony is not a hope, not a possibility, not a process, but a finished reality. You will walk in testimonies that speak for themselves, that open doors without your effort, that shift atmospheres without explanation, and that stand as monuments of God's goodness in your life. This is the week where God will not just bless you, He will finalize the blessing. He will not just help you, He will complete what the help was sent to accomplish. You will walk in visible, sealed, irreversible testimonies that announce to your world, God has finished what He started in your life.